There's 14 million women-led businesses in the US. Only 2% of them hit $1 million in revenue. That to me is actually a more important. Only 0.5% of businesses are venture-backed. I call that the access gap, because if you prove that you can do it and not just have an idea, a paper napkin idea that Silicon Valley, you just write it on a napkin, I'll fund you. That doesn't happen for us. When I hit 6 figures in 6 months, I'm in the car, I started crying, and I'm like, I know this is so much bigger than me. I just crossed 11K MRR, all organic. I use TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram to find my leads, to build networking. But what I'm building is actually really about data distribution to help women get to $1 million faster. So it's a very personalized platform based on your goals, and it pushes you.
If someone listening to this, a woman wants to start their own business, what are the top 2 or 3 things that they should focus on to help them get started? Hey guys, welcome back to Funds and Founders. I like asking guests when we kick off that for anyone who's listening to you for the first time today, how do you introduce yourself and what do you want people to know about yourself?
Hi. What's up, Bobby? I'm Nomiki, the founder of Theanna, a tech platform exclusively for women tech founders going from 0 to $1 million. I'm a mom, a wife, I have 4 little babies, and I live in Columbus, Ohio.
There's some stats out there that only 2% of VC money goes to women. My understanding of what you're trying to build with Theanna is you're trying to empower women to build businesses, build entrepreneurship, sort of get guidance, understand that they could own their own future. I don't know if that's the right phrasing, but that's what came to mind.
I actually love that. Yeah.
Wanted to ask, what pushed you to build this platform? What was the spark? What was the sort of defining moment of like, okay, I need to go do this, or maybe there's something you're not seeing in the space? And what prompted you to start this?
So you said that 2% of venture capital goes to women, and everyone knows that stat. But what people don't pay attention to, and I think is actually a more important stat, is 2% of women hit $1 million in revenue. Only 2%. That's wild to me.
2% of the 2%? Or like 2% of just any women?
Separate statistics.
Okay.
Only 2% of women-led business. There's 14 million women-led businesses in the US. Only 2% of them hit $1 million in revenue. Okay. That to me is actually a more important stat than the 2% of venture capital, which obviously is very important, but only 0.5% of businesses are venture-backed. So what I like to focus on and why I started Theanna was prior to that, I had an accelerator that taught women how to build product, how to be own their own business and what they're trying to create rather than diluting themselves, bringing on a CTO or a co-founder to build it for them. I wanted to empower women to be their own expert, to actually understand how technology worked. And when I created this accelerator, what I learned was that women were diluting themselves. They were spending tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars on bringing someone outside in to own the product vision, which I think in general, if you're going to be successful in leading a tech company, you have to know the product better than anyone.
100%.
And for me, I outsource, but I do all the product requirements. I do all the design. I'm making all the strategic decisions. You need to do that in order to be successful because you'll see things ahead of the time, right? So back to why I started Theanna was when I created this accelerator, it happened to perform really well. I had women actually launch, earn their first paying customers, get insane partnerships, win pitch competitions. And small plug, today I'm actually investing $5,000 of my own cash into my first pitch competition for 5 women that reached finalists from that accelerator. That's happening literally today, which is full circle moment. But what I found was that women needed more, not just from product, they needed more direction on how to build a business. So the business fundamentals, and of course I support women building tech startups. So lots of product in there, lots of ICP, all the standard talk, user experience, all the things. But the fundamentals need to be learned if you're going to do anything successful. So the 2% of venture capital, in my eyes, that's a byproduct of building a successful business from the ground up. And I wanted to focus on that. So I call that the access gap. And if we are able to close that access gap, I really believe that we'll be able to hit 2% of women reaching further in million-led businesses, and then more than 2% hitting, getting venture capital. Because if you prove that you can do it and not just have an idea, a paper napkin idea that Silicon Valley, you just write it on a napkin, I'll fund you. That doesn't happen for us. We're not welcome into those rooms. I believe that if you build that strong business, generate revenue, prove it, optionality will just become available. So that's what happened.
So So one follow up to that, right? So you said just core business fundamentals. Is there a reason that this skill gap or education gap exists for women versus men, or just trying to understand where does that stem from, right? That lack of understanding of these business fundamentals. And I mean, not to say that someone taught me these, I just consume a lot of content. So I feel like I've just learned stuff along the way. But why does this gap sort of exist? Or is there like a bigger picture here that I'm missing?
There is a bigger picture. So first of all, we're like 50 years behind our male counterparts. Like we
Yeah,
couldn't get a credit card, sign for a mortgage. We weren't allowed to have our own businesses. Like literally, we could not own things as women. So until like the 70s and 80s. So we're behind. The second thing is 73% of primary caretakers, primarily for children, are women. So we're at home, we're taking care of our kids, we're taking care of our parents. There's the sandwich generation. That lessens our opportunity to go out and do all of the things because we simply
makes
have less
sense.
time.
Makes
You
sense.
know, we can go into the mental load and all the things that go into that. I also think that generationally, I've been super fortunate. I grew up in a household with four brothers, so super competitive already. But my parents were both entrepreneurs of 30 plus years, right? So I was taught things that the standard household is not taught.
100%. You're
So
already exposed to that environment, that culture, that sort of,
yeah, like
I don't
people
know if
ask me,
risk
like, how do
taking
you do it? I'm
appetite,
like,
but
what do
yeah.
you mean? I don't know any different. Like, this is just what we
Yeah.
do. We just go
Yeah.
build the thing. We see it,
Yeah.
we just go build it. That's not normal. Okay. So, in general, all those things are stacked against us. The other stat that I want to call out, because I specifically focus on women building tech startups right now, is that only 25% of engineering talent is led by women. So, we simply are not pushed into rooms, and there's so much bias that goes into that, and we can talk about that web. But ultimately, when we were going through school, oh, you're great at writing, go do writing, you don't need to go to computer science. We're the only one in that computer science room, right? And we're pushed out, not by our male counterparts, but generally, like, directionally, you should do this because you can have a family, right? So all these things are layered. There's so many layers to it, but generally it's the system doesn't work for us to know these fundamentals.
100%.
And we need to teach women how to do this. This is why
Yeah.
I'm so hard set on teaching my girls, and they're so young, right? Of this is how you build a business. Like, I want them to know so that they don't know any different.
So if you had to pick out one or two, so you mentioned business fundamentals. I feel like that's a very vague term.
Yeah.
But if someone listening to this, a woman wants to start their own business, what are the top two or three things that they should focus on to help them get started? So if you want to talk about skill sets, or you want to talk about like, hey, go learn these one or two things to better prepare you for whatever kind of business you want to start. And I know I'm generalizing, so feel free to be specific if you want to, but just want someone to walk away, if they just listen however many minutes we're in, what are the two or three things that would be most impactful to their entrepreneurship journey, assuming that they know nothing about this or just trying to start out?
So the things I'm going to tell you are not things that you're going to read in books or expect me to say. But the first one is rejection therapy.
Okay.
What rejection therapy means is that mentally, you have to be comfortable with putting yourself out there and trying to test everything that comes to your mind without fear of rejection and being okay with being rejected. That is going to build a muscle of you building up what you're capable of, what you're testing and learning and building ultimately. When I talk about business fundamentals, I'm not talking about let's build a deck, let's create a financial model, let's create a business plan, let's go to ChatGPT and write. Like, at the end of the day, the best entrepreneurs are ones that just try everything and are unafraid to put themselves out there. So if anyone is trying to begin, it's find a problem you're obsessed with. Like, what is a problem that you go to bed thinking about, and when you wake up, you're thinking about it still? What is something that you're like, why has this not been fixed? I can do that better. That's number one. Two, be okay with making mistakes. Be okay with talking to people, putting yourself out there. In today's day, you can't just put ads to something and expect like your company to grow. You have to own your distribution. So I really believe that founders need to be okay with talking about things that they're comfortable with their problems that they're solving, the things that they believe in terms of trends and the market, why they think they're the best ones to be solving this. all the things that go into that, and putting themselves out there. So in terms of like, what should you do? Find something you love, something that you're like, what, how has this not been solved yet? And just start putting yourself out there and testing everything under the sun. Maybe a landing page, maybe some social media posts, maybe a product, maybe a website, maybe a pop-up shop. Like maybe you create something and you see if people want it. Like you're going to get rejected and you have to be okay with that.
I like it. I feel like that's the first time. And while you're saying that, I'm just thinking about instances where people have said, oh, you weren't afraid to go talk to this person. I would have been so afraid of them like shutting me out. And I think that's just something that I've unconsciously developed just because I go to so many networking events. I'm happy to walk up to people and I can sense whether they want to talk to me or not. And if not, I just walk out and go to the next person, right? But to that point, it took me a couple of months to get there of like being able to like just blatantly go. And maybe there's a bad analogy, but I think I've noticed people saying how they're afraid to ask someone for something. And in my mind, I'm like, you have nothing to lose here. So like, I can understand why that's an interesting skill to like start with instead of like a business.
I actually love that analogy. I was at Venture Atlanta last fall, and there was a guy, his name is Marty. Plug into Marty. He was on the stage.
Marty, come on the podcast.
Yeah, he was on the stage talking about building a beautiful work culture. They kept winning all these awards for having like the best culture. And I'm a solo founder. I don't have any team. Like my team is outsourced. I don't manage any people, but eventually that's the goal. Right. And he sold his company to Accenture for a lot, did really well. And I saw him in a room and I'm like, I'm just going to go up to him. And I was like, hey, I loved what you had to say. I just wanted to introduce myself. This is what I'm up to. I'd love to keep in touch. I now have his cell phone number. He sent me a book that he wrote and it said, thanks for having the balls to come talk to me. Literally, he sent me this. And now he's in my back corner when he sees posts. He's like, hey, how are you doing? If you need advice, just call me. Like you literally have nothing
100%.
to lose. Like the worst thing that could happen is someone being like, who are you? And like, then you could just prove like, I'm so-and-so and this is what I'm doing. If you don't respect that, by all means, like just move on. You have to be okay with it.
Makes sense. That's a really good segue about wanting to ask you, going back to your journey of starting Theanna, you decide to do this, you're starting. What does day one look like? Walk us through how you went from, I'm going to do this, to what is my first prototype, to your first money in. Just quickly run through that journey. How long did it take? What were the steps, ups and downs, failures, whatever happened along the way?
So the accelerator prior to Theanna was my MVP. It was a manual process. I had over 40 women that went through that. When I hit 6 figures in 6 months, I was in the car. Literally, I have a picture of it because I was like, this is the moment. I'm in the car. I started crying and I'm like, I know this is so much bigger than me. I then call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I know exactly what I'm going to build. I've been struggling to figure out because I always wanted to be a tech founder. I just didn't know what to build yet. And that moment, I'm like, I know what it is. So that was September 16th. I spent the entire October designing with them. I'm a designer by trade. So I designed what the experience would be. And because I knew what was going to have to work and designed all of October. Development started November 5th. I spent $75,000 on my MVP. I had some angel funds from my parents and then some money from my business. So we put that together. Launched the MVP February 6th to 35 beta members. It went through really fast, like 14 weeks of build time. When I say MVP, I mean like I didn't have a search bar. You can't upload pictures. Like it is community and some milestone tracking and a couple other things, like very bare minimum. From there, February 19th, open to public, got my first paying customer. So we've been live since February 19th till today. I just crossed 11K MRR. Ups and downs. Oh, I'm by myself, so I'm doing it all organic. I use TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram to find my leads, to build networking. It's a platform that's focused on milestone tracking. So visually, optically, everyone thinks it's a community network, which it absolutely is. That's the foundation. But what I'm building is actually really about data distribution, data transparency, milestone tracking, to help women get to $1 million faster. So it's a very personalized platform based on your goals. And it pushes you. So we have like weekly drops of challenges, things like that to help you reach your goals. Why I build all this? Because when I was in the accelerator, I went to the accelerator to do one-on-one support. It was a service-based business essentially that productized my own skill set. I needed a place to put everyone. So I was like, crap, I can't keep doing emails. So I built a Slack channel. I'm like, all right, here's so-and-so. There's 5 other women in there. Just be nice, all the things, make friends, but we're not doing events. Like, this is just a place. I need one central spot. What ended up happening was all these women started collaborating with one another. They started sharing things like super transparently of what tools they're using, what they messed up on, what they need help with. So the natural organic like feeling of community just started building. I would have people reach out to me and be like, hey, what it is about your community, which I did not intend to build, that people are just sharing things. I've never seen that before. Like, they're just telling me how much they paid for things and who their networks are, and they're doing introductions. And I'm like, honestly, what it comes down to is like, I give as much as I possibly can. And it seems that everyone else is like, oh, this is normal. Let's just start repeating. So the community in Theanna was really founded to fuse that network, that give first mentality, that generosity with one another. And how do we hit our goals? Let's push ourselves and to try to hit things that we otherwise would be in a silo trying to do it ourselves. So that was kind of long-winded, but that's everything.
Makes sense. And how many members are you currently at?
165.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's churn rate look like? Or is there no churn? Or is it too soon to tell?
Churn. So actually, I just did a churn analysis earlier this week. So I've had 31 churns. So I went through price changes when I started. Once I had a free tier, I shut that off like 30 days later because I realized it was causing a lot of bloat. People are coming in, not trying to actually give. So I cut that off, and then I did, all right, $49. Let's see. Well, when I did that, I sold like 60 in like a week. And I'm like, that's telling me it's too cheap. Like, great, I could get as many, but that means that they still were not engaging as much as I want because $49, I can still have access to all the things, but it's not like a financial like push for me to then get more out of it. So I actually changed it to $99 a month. And the churn, to your question, and that's been a couple months now, 31 churns, one of them is from 99.
Nice.
So I don't actually know what my churn rate is in terms of numbers, but the analysis comes down to like psychological behavior and perceived value and how much you're spending for how much you're giving. And my $99 at customers are way better customers.
100%. Do you have an artificial goal you're working towards? Was 10K MRR just a stamp, or like sort of how do you structure your growth, right? Because you always have some KPI, some target, something you're working towards, right? So what's your inherent goal for the next couple of months?
So September 1st, my goal is 25K MRR. I need about 150 more customers to get there. Within 12 months, I want 1,000 customers. I'm in this weird space of, do I take funding? Do I go to an accelerator? I've had opportunities and I haven't made any solid decisions of what I want to do to catapult essentially. But those are numbers that I think I can accomplish organically by myself if I really push.
In terms of impact, do you track how many of your members are launching businesses, what scales they're going to, how are they? There's probably some feedback cycle there, right? To like get the sense that you are actually helping them start businesses and not just like, I forget the word, but when someone just like plans and plans and plans, but like never actually does anything. But yeah.
In the platform, when you're onboarding, there are 4 stages of business and you get segmented in them based on some criteria that we're onboarding you with. Yeah. And the 4 is based at it's idea, launch, grow, and scale. What they don't know what they do, but like it's not in the platform. It's based on revenue. So idea is pre-revenue, and we have builders at the idea stage right now. They're builders. They're actively building. This is not really a place for you to be like, I have an idea. I'm just going to, hang around. These are people that are like, no, beta is coming out in 30 days. This is what we're trying to accomplish. Launch is 5K MRR, grow is 25K MRR, and scale is 83, which is when you hit $1 million in ARR. And the goal is then like circular movement. Okay, now let's go back. There's a whole mentorship model, but I'm actually building. I just had a conversation with one of my developers this morning. I'm building a dashboard because I want publicly to have a transparent view of all the anonymous founders, of course, how long it's taking everyone to get from idea to launch, launch to grow, grow to scale. And I want to prove that through our system, through our formula, every month, the amount of founders that went from idea to launch is growing month over month. It's less about revenue. It's more about how fast are we moving everyone else through the system to get to $1 million in ARR. So I'm tracking all of that.
Makes sense. A quick question there. So if you look at your community members, what do you think is the biggest sort of knowledge gap? So like we talked about the business fundamentals and all that ideas, but I'm just thinking you're talking about these stages of like launch, grow, scale. What do you see people needing to learn to get from one to the next and then the next to the next, right? Like, cause I want to say there's clear skill gaps of like, okay, I have an idea. I understood. I'm willing to pitch my idea and stuff, but maybe I just don't understand tech. So like that's a skill gap, right? Once you get the tech, you find a team, whatever. Now your skill gap is probably more growth or marketing or customer acquisition or building a funnel or onboarding. If you had to talk about the different stages, what would you say is the most essential skill to get from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4?
So the major thing, 90% of our founders are non-technical. So the biggest skill gap that we have is the technical side, from idea to launch and actually even up to grow. I'm an anomaly in that I think women should push themselves further to a friction point before they bring in someone technical to do mind share and lose that like connectivity to what they're building.
100%.
I think people give that up too fast, to be honest. So in that sense, I bring in a lot of experts that come in to talk about engineering. I literally am going live with Sook on TikTok to talk about how to communicate with an engineer as a non-technical person. How can you set your engineer up for success so that you can have that good collaborative relationship? That's the biggest skill gap in the first few stages. The second one is actually mental, sort of like the rejection therapy we were talking about. It's being okay with putting yourself out there and being okay with getting rejected in any turn and trying to learn and figure out like, what do I do? The women in the platform, they're go-getters. So like, if you tell them like, hey, you should try this and hit a target. This morning that literally happened. I woke up. She was like, hey, you told me to hit 10. I already got 11 by end of month. I'm like, great. Now go get 75. Like if you give them targets, they're like, okay, I'll go do this. That's the type of women that are in this platform.
Makes sense.
But the gap is someone pushing them to say, you can go do that, because otherwise they're kind of on their own. They don't have that like external push. And that's the beauty of the community. Everyone's like, go fucking do it. Like you got this. So those are the two biggest things in my opinion.
Sweet.
And wait, the other thing I wanted to mention is I gather data on all their backgrounds. So were they in sales? Were they in marketing? Were they in PR? Marketing is actually number one of where their backgrounds are in. All the business things outside of tech, they're really good at. Like they're very good at those things. So building a business isn't hard for them. They just don't know how to harness it because they've never built from scratch before. I think that's another kind of gap.
Yeah. I don't know if this is even related to what we're talking about, but I just think about this. When founders come to me to build with my agency, they're like, I want to do this and build this and B2B and this, and I need a dashboard. I'm like, I can do all of that. It's probably going to cost you $100K, but do you need it? Mm-hmm. It sounds like you could just go validate with a Google form, and then if people do it, come back to me and I can build you what you need. And maybe I'm oversimplifying with AI. Maybe it's not really a Google form. It's a glorified Google form. But I feel like a lot of businesses, if you're really solving a problem that needs to be solved, that someone wants to pay for a solution for, it could be a Google form with a Stripe link and they pay you for it. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to have all the bells and whistles. It doesn't need to look nice. It needs to solve a problem someone needs solving. Mm-hmm. And I constantly say this, and again, it comes off as like me not wanting their business, but sometimes you don't need all this fluff, right? You're trying to solve a problem that's a problem in your head that you haven't validated or no one's told you it's a problem. But I feel like I know a lot of people who get stuck in that cycle of like, I got to make this better. I got to make this better. I'm like, but you have only one person paying for it. Like, do you really need to make it better? But anyways, I mean, just a random.
I was a founder dinner this past week, and the person I sat next to, the whole room was men. And I'm like, tell me about your business. Give me the scoop. I'm the person that makes everyone talk, you know? So we went in this circle, and the guy sitting next to me was like, you know, I'm a tech founder. We have a little bit of revenue, and this is what I'm building. I was like, tell me more about your product. 4 streams of revenue, building for 9 months, actually has 0 revenue, not a little, 0. 4 product streams for revenue. And I'm like, and you no paying customers. I'm like, what? So then I was like, tell me how much you're paying an hourly rate for your dev team. You don't have a technical founder. Like you didn't build it. It's like, I'm paying like $125 an hour. I was like, are you insane? Have you lost your mind? Like, and of course I didn't say that, but in my head, I'm like, this is a problem that people think that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to quit your job, then go spend all of your life savings because that's delusion. That's actually not the definition of delusion. So in the accelerator, the first thing that we do, I closed it down. I have a couple, it's closing the last cohort down, but it's broken down to 4 months. Month 1 is validation. And I don't let anyone go to month 2, step 2, until we've identified that this is a problem. Like, you're not allowed to touch any technology, nothing. Like, you need to go talk to people, do a qualitative analysis, understand what you're actually solving, learn how to communicate with people, and validate that the problem exists. Because what people think is like, oh, I'm validating an idea, and they go to their parents, and they go to their friends. Oh, that's cool. I would use that. No, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. And then they go build it because they get this false narrative, like, I'm building the next big thing. Like, no, you're not. So I talk about this a lot, as you can tell.
Pretty good segue into, I want to say this comes off a LinkedIn post of yours, but you're known for killing ideas fast.
Yeah.
What's the single signal that tells you to ship it versus scrap it within 48 hours?
I like to push something out like in a prototype, a fake prototype, to be like, hey, give me some scoop on, what I'm thinking about. And I observe behavior. If you have to pay attention to like how people are reacting. I'm very much into watching, and seeing what their facial cues are, their body language, what they're excited about. And I ask 3 questions typically when I go through this process of, what do you love about this? What are you confused about? And what do you wish this had? And if I'm on the mark, I'll change a couple things and then I'll ship it. Progress over perfection every day.
Yeah. I like that.
My MVP, Abby, did not have a search bar. Like, you couldn't search for anything. All you can do is come in and talk and chat. The sorting of the feeds didn't work. Like, it bare minimum. But guess what? I got to 10K MRR in 3 months. Like, it worked.
And I think that's what people underestimate, right? Like, if you can resonate with a problem and you're actually helping make progress towards that solution, you don't have to solve it for them.
Yeah.
You just got to help them figure out how to solve it. You have a good product a lot of the times.
Agreed.
Give us the 60-second version of your 6-step founder framework. What step do women skip the most?
Validation, like actual validation. So the 6-step framework starts with your mission and your core values. Like, why are you doing this? What's drawing you to this? What's the problem you want to solve? Then it's customer discovery. After we do customer discovery and validate qualitatively and quantitatively, we then go through user experience. I teach them how to actually create user journeys. What is the experience any user would come through? And we do it in a 4-step process before they get to wireframes. I believe in doing that type of brain work before you go into actually using code and Lovable, Replit, all those tools. From there, we build an MVP. What's the tech? What are all the ways that you can build an MVP? From there, we go to market and ship your MVP.
Nice. Do you think that once you talk about this framework, let's say you're onboarding someone, you walk them or you're working with them, is it really easy for your members to sort of take this and translate it into actionable steps? Or is it just a very like guiding principle and then there's a lot more that goes into this?
So the way that I built the product is milestone driven.
Okay.
What we're creating in this summer and this fall and what we're releasing is actually personalized roadmap based on your business.
Nice.
So right now I meet with everyone so I can kind of guide them of what their milestones should be. But what we're creating right now is onboarding them based on all their business fundamentals, getting contextual data. So we have like a knowledge hub based on their product, their vision, their marketing, all the things, so that we can draw in AI to create a literal roadmap of, hey, this is where you're at. You're at launch stage. These are the next 5 milestones you should consider and start tracking, and all that tracking for the milestone. So it's a smart coach. We're tracking their progress every day. They have to check in. And that check-in will give them tasks, will give them suggestions,
Nice.
and challenge. So part of what I do is actually push people a little bit out of their comfort zone to see what they're capable of. And then we give them reporting on every milestone. All of those milestones are then aggregated into another AI LLM. And all that's going to be then used for your roadmap to say, hey, we're going to make some adjustments based on what your progress is, how you seem to be taking action and what you're capable of. We're going to push you a little further, right? Because ultimately I'm like, I'm only successful if we hit $1 million. So let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I haven't seen this product, so I'm generalizing a little bit. I feel like why something like that hasn't worked for me personally is there's a little bit of nuance to how I like to work. And so every time I've tried a personalized tool, this note taker app, whatever, what ends up happening is it either becomes too granular where now I'm like, this just feels like a waste of time for me to like go and tick off and like try to reach these milestones, or it's so high level that it's not specifically actionable. And maybe this is just I haven't spent enough time trying to solve this for myself, but I feel like it's hard to translate that nuance of the level of what granularity, what I don't know what the word for this is, but how complex or not complex a task is and or milestone is. I feel like I haven't been able to do that properly yet. And maybe it's just I haven't tried hard enough to teach the LLM to, figure my style out. But that's one thing where I've been trying to figure out how to structure my day and like do tasks and better reach milestones and reach objectives, but just nothing's work. And I always resort to just pen and paper. And if I forget it, it wasn't important enough is the sort of the.
So what you're saying is actually something that has been so thought through in terms of building this product. And there's a couple things here. The first one is, and obviously you're not a woman, so you can't relate completely, but before starting my accelerator, which was only women, I've only worked with men. Like all the founders I worked with for 13 years were men entrepreneurs, right? When I started to work with women, what I noticed the major difference was that women like to collaborate. They thrive in group settings for like momentum, for just like emotional support and all the things that go into it, because women have different layers of complexities, like in terms of life and caretaking, all the things that go into it. So what I found was that, okay, if women have the community fused with the actions and they're doing things together, which is why we have the challenge drops every week, they're more likely to hit their goal. So I validated this whole process using a Notion document. So we were talking about Google Forms. Before I started this process, I created a Notion document that had all the frameworks, and they had dates and things that they were supposed to hit. And then we had weekly events to make sure that everyone came together and actually were hitting those milestones and group settings. Nice. So all of that worked. So they were hitting their goals. They were winning pitch competitions. They were getting their customers. They were getting those partnerships, because as a group setting with those goals in mind, they were able to hit them faster because they believed in themselves, right? They saw
Makes sense.
So all of that mentality is actually built into the system, which is why it's women-led specifically. If I had a bunch of men in there too, this thing would break. Like it would not work. It's not an agnostic tool. It's behaviorally created for women and how we operate at the best, right? At the top tier, here's how we do our best. And the underlyings of the system is meant to support that.
Makes sense. I like that. And I was joking with someone yesterday, like, oh, you wouldn't know this because like I was in that thing, and then I was like, oh, let me just ask ChatGPT how to, like, let me just ask for that, like, okay, let me embrace this persona I'm playing for this conversation, but it's just a random joke. You were like, you're not a, I'm like, well, let me ask ChatGPT how to understand and participate like that. But no, just joking. No one killed me for this. But cool. A couple of quick, like, just random questions. What system or tool gives you back the most focus hours every week? How do you structure your life to be optimal in every capacity?
Yeah, I use a lot of AI tools. It's so funny you just asked that. My husband and I yesterday just planned an AI day on July 3rd. We both took the day off. to optimize all of our AI systems, because I want to be a solo founder as long as I can. No employees as long as I can. So I have to leverage AI to optimize my creativity and different things that I'm doing, dropping the ball on, whether that be picking up on customers that apply but didn't subscribe. Like, how do I outreach to them? How do I create my events, automating them with agents? How do I create personalized emails for the partners that I want in my partner network? I just have projects that know me really well. All of my designs go into those projects. So I leverage, because I create tons of content. I leverage all of my content and pour them back into LLMs in different categories so that I can get the best output really fast. Like, I post about 10 times a day on social media, and people always ask me, like, how are you doing that? I'm like, it's so easy. Like, all I have to do is create a list of things that are happening, get comments, put them in there, and I have a generated list, and all I have to do is just flop up the phone and start talking. So I have to leverage AI to be as productive as possible. And yeah, the community.
Well, can you rattle off some tools off the top of your head that are most frequently used?
Yeah, Spinach AI. I have an MCP to ChatGPT for it. I use Claude. I use Lovable for prototyping.
What does Spinach AI do?
It's a transcript tool, but it allows me to connect it to my LLM and ChatGPT to synthesize data to then give me deeper insights on other things that I'm like collaborating on. I use Lovable. I use Figma, has some AI in it for prototyping, but generally it's a pretty lean system.
Nice. Pretty cool.
Oh, and Zapier.
Have you tried N8N?
My husband and I have a subscription, so that's going to be part of our July 3rd AI Day. Yeah. We tested it with something about a month ago.
Super powerful agent. I would say it takes a little finagling to get up and running.
Yeah.
But if you have a use case, my pro tip, just scrape the docs from N8N, go to Claude, ask Claude to build you the workflow and ask you questions. It'll output you the JSON file. Just go to N8N, input the JSON file. At that point, then all you need to do is just make sure the right keys and auths are done, but it'll build you the full workflow. So it might save you some time. The biggest thing I've realized with all these things is you need a use case. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the times I'll build myself agents to do shit that
you don't need.
I don't need. So I just don't use the agents, or I'm just not habituated to need the agent. And then that's maybe where I need to like start using it more to understand its bottlenecks. And some stuff kept breaking and it was just pissing off. And I was like, I don't want to keep having to fix this stuff. So eventually it'll get there, but yeah.
We had Zapier do a workshop this week on building AI agents in their tool. It was an awesome workshop. And when we were going through the use case as an example throughout, I was like thinking about different ways that I can leverage it for my partner side so I can personalize. Essentially I'm launching a partner network next month. How can I get the right tools into my system and personalize it to outreach? So a CRM system. And that blew my mind. So I was like, okay, now I can just create this whole thing. And that's what I want to do next week. Cause I don't want to hire a partnership person, and I can't outreach to everyone. So let's just have an agent do it.
I'm really curious what happens when everyone has a lead gen agent, an email agent, a cold email agent. Like, what happens at that point? Does it just all end up getting spammed?
It is. I'm not into cold outreach. Like every customer I talk to, it's me. I think there's a personal side to customers and customer acquisition, and I am the business, right? Like people have to trust me as the business owner, that I have their best interests at heart. So I don't use any AI for any of those things. It's always me, misspellings and everything, lots of exclamation points. But for the partnership side, ultimately it's an alignment on mission. So I don't feel like it's going to be a problem. I could be wrong. We'll find out. But I do think if any founders are listening to this, that early on, you need to be doing that work. Like it's really important because AI cannot pick up on, how responses are happening, how to actually react afterwards, how to get them on the phone. They can't do that well. And I do think AI is going to spam. Like the amount of spam, I check my spam every morning and I'm like, junk. You don't know me. You have the wrong information.
And I think that's where I feel like some of these systems may change over time is like if everyone is spamming the same person, like is it going to be harder for an authentic person to get through, or is it just going to be blatantly everyone's put in the same bucket and ignored? So now
It
you
is
need something on
harder.
top.
But I tell people to get creative.
Yeah.
So like I'll send Loom videos to people. I'll send a video on my phone. I'll send voice notes. Like you have to be okay with using all the other tools that are not standard. It's not just cold email or cold DMs in LinkedIn. There's so many other resources that you could be leveraging to stand out. I just don't think people are doing it, and they think it's like uncomfortable, and they don't do it. Like why not?
I had one of the co-founders of Import Yeti on, which is like a data product for import export data to the US.
Yeah.
And he's like, the biggest thing that worked for us was just sending merch to our potential enterprise customers. Just send them merch with a QR code piece of paper in it. Everyone loves merch.
Yeah.
They don't even know what Import Yeti is, but everyone wants like free merch, right? So he's like, it was like $3 a mug, $2, $3 to ship. So
Yeah.
for $6, they basically, and they use their product to source the manufacturer from China.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of like super
All right,
cheap.
Abby,
And
question for you, because I'm thinking about merch, but I haven't done any yet. What kind of merch should I get for Theanna?
well, I mean, how premium do you want to go?
Just give me, what would you be like? That's the
So I feel like some apparel that's like super unique, custom run. You only do like 50, 100 pieces at a time. Maybe like I'm a big hoodie person, so like a really good hoodie or some version of like a bomber jacket. I don't know. I'm not up to date with women fashion. Of women fashion. Whatever the equivalent of that would be. Just something that would, some piece of apparel that would be unique, show off, fashionable, and your members wouldn't mind wearing it. And you just have subtle branding, not like big.
Yeah.
That's what I would personally go for. So I've been wanting to do this for my podcast. So I'm into leather work, so I make wallets and stuff.
Oh, amazing.
So I've made a bunch of stuff. And so at some point, what I wanted to do was, we can digress and I can
stamp your wallet.
No, not even that. So I wanted to, for every guest I was getting on, I actually talked to a couple of designers, but I wasn't able to figure out the style. But something along the lines of make like custom like cards, like trading cards. I pulled off the wrong.
No, I know what you're talking about though.
Yeah, so like I wanted to make like a custom trading card for my guests and then put it in a wallet that I made and then send it to the guests before they. So like something like this. So there's just a bunch of EDC creators I follow. So it's just a custom card that's for the creator.
That would be sweet.
So ideally, like that's where I feel like there's a little extra touch. I don't think this would cost me too much. I love making wallets either way. So it would be like a little bit of like, I made this, plus I got this design. And then if you wanted, you could order some like bespoke stuff and then you could just pay for that. But like that's where my brain goes when you say stuff like this. There's a creator I follow who I don't know how much YouTube. He's a camera guy, but he does a bunch of EDC, and he has a brand called Pete's Pirate Life. He'll go to custom.
Wait, you have to pay me. What is EDC?
Everyday carry.
Like
there's
guns?
A whole. No, so like just everyday carry is like I have a phone, a knife. I don't, but like everyday carry for people are like just stuff they leave the house with, like small multi-tools, fidget toys. So EDC is just sort of what you leave the house with and like what you accessorize yourself with.
Wow,
so
I feel old. Okay.
Yeah, like the equivalent of like jewelry, I would say. I don't know. But like it's small stuff like this where it's just like super handmade, limited runs. This is like a brass coin that he worked with some guy in Canada with.
That's awesome.
And so small stuff like this is where my head goes, which is it'll be memorable. They'd remember it. It's also not just another hat or another mug.
Yeah.
A long-winded way to say it. I think apparel would be super nice just because subtle branding and people will wear it. So you're getting free marketing at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyways, I don't know if that answered your question.
It did.
Cool. Couple quick questions. Beyond money, what's the hidden barrier that you would say slows women down the most?
Beyond money. I think the networks. We're not typically added to most rooms. So getting a foot in the door, getting an ally to open the door or to like bring us along. I talk about the male allyship a lot. I think that's really important, and more are coming out of the woodworks, of course, but there's still stigmas and unfortunate use cases that still happen. But I think just being invited. I saw a post yesterday on TikTok. This woman got rejected in the last stage of getting funding. And this man emailed her and literally told her, "We think your business is great, but you are too pretty." It literally told her, "We find that when you're too pretty, you lack grit. And that we can't back you because we don't think that you have the grit to go to scale because of your looks." Someone had the balls to write this in an email. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So unfortunately, things like that still happen. So we need our male allies to help us.
Makes sense. Okay, that's nice. Is there a mindset cue that tells you when you're talking to a founder or potential member whether they're going to stick with it and follow the journey or whether they'll just call quits for sign of
The
trouble?
best ones do things without me asking them to do them, or like me even like I can give them a little direction and the next time I talk to them, they've done 100 other things. But the ones that, in my opinion, are not going to make it or don't have like the stamina or like the mental strength are the ones that wait for me to like give them advice on what to do next and kind of stall. So there's a pattern.
Yeah. I also feel like that notion of like just risk taking, action taking attitude, I feel like can make or break because again, to your point, going back to like what you said initially, rejection, failure, right? So if you over optimize, you may never get the signal you need. Now you spend all this time, energy, money on an idea that you could have just called 10 people with, spent an hour on and like not wasted.
Yeah.
But again, right, there's a lot of like learnings there and
speed too. Like the concept of speed in general. And, people always comment like, "You're so fast." I'm like, what do you mean? You tell me something, I'm just going to go do it really fast. Like, just like, let me just test it. It's not that I'm fast, like by someone else's standard. It's that I reduce the amount of time I'm thinking about it and just prefer to like get enough data to like go do the thing rather than getting too much data and then being like, oh shit, talk myself out of it.
100%.
That's the difference.
What's the one Silicon Valley or tech VC rule that you broke or the first one that you broke and what happened?
Are there rules?
And when I say rule, I'm probably just meaning,
like, are there any rules?
Like generic, like, guidance of like, hey, go do this, traction, raise money, series A, B, C, like, the guidance that you get online.
I'm like anti-pitch deck. I'm like, I don't have time. Like, I don't have time to energy to put towards this. I'm not building these models for a complex system. So I never had one until like 3 weeks ago when someone was like offering an opportunity for investment and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And they're like, we need a deck. And I'm like, all right, I've seen hundreds of them at this point. I'll just make one really fast. So I made one in like 48 hours and I haven't touched it since.
I was going to say, when you said I didn't make a pitch deck, I was like, did you make a 1-page memo instead? But
I did send a Loom video. Like, here's my product. This is what I'm doing. And here's my vision. The help with this helps.
I feel like I have a friend who works in a payments company and he was talking about how they have so much traction right now. They don't even have time to think about funding.
Yeah.
They don't even need funding. But people are trying to like get to the founder saying, I want to give you money. Tell me how I can give you.
This has literally happened to me, Abhi. Like when I hit 10K MRR, I had a lot of people in my inbox. And I had 5 angels. I had actual investors being like, I want to fund you. And I'm like, I don't even know who you are. Like, I don't know if this is a good fit. I have a family. Like, there's all these things that go into this decision. It's not just about money. And so I called my mentors. All of my mentors are engineering men. Like, they have skills I don't have. So that's why they're my mentors. They can teach me things I don't know. All 5 of them offered me angel funds when I asked them for for help. I was like, I need advice. What should I do? And they're like, well, we'll help you. And I'm like, okay. So then I was like, fuck, I have to go C Corp now. I'm an LLC. And so I haven't converted or anything like that. But I'm like, that actually happened, but it's a distraction. I haven't made any decisions or anything, but I'm like, it's a huge distraction right now.
If I was you, I would just blanket, give them like a safe note at like a 10 million cap. And if they take it, take it. If they don't,
I'll be one of them. So that's what we were talking about after a couple conversations when I was like, oh, wait, this is a real opportunity. What should I do? And one of them, I was like, listen, the advice was between 6 and 10 mil. And the one guy was like, oh, I was thinking 500K cap. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry, come again? I'm like, I'll literally hit that at the end of the year. What are you talking about? So those types of predatory like behaviors actually exist. So watch out, folks.
It's one of those things where I also think, depending on the kind of investor, now I don't want to blanket stereotype every investor, but you also have to understand like where they're coming from and what their incentives are.
Yep.
More often than not, someone who's writing a check from a fund, it's not their money. They're being paid a salary. They maybe get some carry. Yep. They have to take enough shots on target. Some of them have to work. But depending on where they are in their fund cycle, what returns they've promised or they're expected to bring, changes their decision making. And then I've also heard there's a lot of FOMO, and like if there's like something hot going on in their scope and other people are looking at it, you don't want to miss out, right? And then when you're talking about like seed rounds, the stake is so low for like $100 million fund. Investing 100, 200K here or there is like, is it really going to make a difference on their balance sheet? Probably not. But if you become that 100x, 200x, 1000x company, they just don't want to miss out.
Yeah.
But again, incentives are so misaligned that you really have to understand, why are you taking this money and who are you taking it from, right?
Exactly.
If you need it to grow the company and survive, that's different. But if you can hold off on it, try to hold off on it until you actually have a working formula and you're like, I'm just going to throw money at this like marketing problem because I figured out a funnel that works for me. But anyways, I mean, I caveat this with like, I've never raised money, but I know I've talked to enough people and know enough people where I've seen both sides, the good and the bad of.
Same thing. And like raising. Now that I'm in these shoes specifically, I've been so cautious of like, I've only known bootstrapping. Like, I don't know any different out for myself, but I've seen people do stupid things with money. And at the end of the day, I have to make a decision, like what makes the most sense for my family. My kids come first. My husband comes first. Like, how do I make a decision that benefits us, that actually helps me do the things that I think I'm capable of without a detriment to our family and our life and my kids seeing their mother, right? Like there's so many things that go into it.
Yeah. Have your kids started any businesses?
My oldest has a makeup channel. She's 8. She loves doing makeup and learning. So she'll record herself. And I started teaching her how to prompt, like dictate to Lovable so that we can create our own thing, but not any true businesses outside of watching mommy and setting up. We got them, they do a bookstore in the house. So we got her paper receipts so they can actually write receipts. They do all the cash register things. They have a cash register, but a real business, no, not yet.
Nice. Soon. Maybe at 10 or 12, right?
Yeah, it's coming.
If you could send a 60-second voice note to yourself 5 years ago, what would you warn or encourage yourself to do?
Oh, 5 years ago, I was in the trenches of being a mother and a complete vessel for babies. I don't know what I would say. 5 years ago was such a different time in my life. I don't know. Just be a good mom. Keep doing your best. Be a good wife. I don't know.
And a couple quick more questions. For anyone with an idea scribbled in their notes app, what's the first validation step they should take right after this episode ends?
Find your ideal customer profile that's being impacted by the problem you're trying to solve the most and go talk to them about the problem and how painful it is.
Fast forward 36 months. What headline should we be reading about yourself and Theanna and the women founders it serves?
Nomiki changed the ecosystem for women building $1 million businesses and changed the stat from 2% to 5%.
Nice. Well, what does that equate to in numbers? Is that you said 14 million, so that's roughly
700,000. Yeah. Who is your dream person that you would interview next?
My dream guest, right? So I don't know if I have a dream guest. I've been listening to a lot of like Neville stuff. I've heard he only does 5 or 6 podcasts ever. I would love to just have him on the and like understand his frame of thinking. That's probably like super unachievable for the near future. I would say, yeah, yeah, that is true. That is true. I should never say never, right? I'm trying to think, who do I consume that I would love to just chat with in person, right? So I've been listening to a lot of the stuff Stephen Bartlett does behind the scenes for his podcast. I would love to just understand or have him on and understand his frame of thinking of just how he operates these businesses. How does he think about structuring a company? He started a new channel called Behind the Diary, which is basically him trying to document his week of building the company.
I love that.
So I think that'd be a great person, because I think what I'm trying to unlock for myself with the podcast is understand different mindsets. I feel like I haven't figured out yet sort of where do I want to end up in terms of like tech job, startup, company, podcast, creative. Like I have a lot of hobbies like leatherwork, woodwork, all these things that I enjoy a lot. I think I haven't understood what the right balance is. At some point, my wife and I will have kids. I don't know when. So trying to understand
before
what's
you
most
guys
important.
have kids, we need to make sure that we monetize.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And so I think part of what I'm trying to unlock is understand different mindsets, different ways of working, because my dad was a government servant, a diplomat in India. Most of my relatives are like very steady 9-to-5 jobs. You've been in that job for 30 years and like life now looks very different. So I don't think I've made a mind on like what kind of path do I want to pursue. Yeah. But maybe through this podcast, what I'm trying to do is understand, here's all the potential paths people have taken. Let me pick out what I like from everyone and try to see if I could build that into mine. So anyone that falls under that, I would love to have a conversation with. But dream guest, I would say one of these 2-3 people right now, just because I consume their stuff a lot and they're like always in my feed. But
I love it. Well, thank you so much for having me today, Adi.
Yeah, I appreciate the conversation. Thank you for coming on.